Welcome to Thrive in the Mess. I'm your host, Lisa Hutchcraft Whitmer. So, hey friend, welcome to Thrive in the Mess. And today I'm excited to have a couple of friends with me on here. And we're talking about family today, but not just family. We are talking about foster care and adoption and international adoption with special needs. It's a whole mix and all in one family. So I don't know how this amazing couple does this, but I'm thrilled to welcome you, Robert and Jessica. Welcome to Thrive in the Mess. You thrive in the mess every day. You might not feel like it, but you are some amazing people. And I know sometimes we don't feel amazing, but it's just doing those everyday things that add up to being able to choose to thrive in the middle of all the things. And I don't know how you even do car ride or drop off in the morning. You have 6 children. And quick rundown, you have 2 biological children,
Yes.
2 children who you had in foster care years ago and
Yes.
were asked to adopt more recently.
Yep.
So there's that. And then I actually met you all because of your youngest 2. We were at a
Yes.
conference together, and Robert,
Yes.
you were nearby, but I didn't see you first. I saw this precious Chinese girl. I thought she was Chinese because my daughter's Chinese. And she had Down syndrome. And I
Yep.
said, I have to know if she's Chinese, like my daughter. So I kind of was like, who is she with? And I kind of wandered over to you, Robert. And you were so kind to start talking with me about that. And then it turned out I actually know your parents. And
Yeah.
you guys are at that conference. But Robert, I kind of want to start with you because you even just shared a little bit at that moment about special needs. And then I realized she had her brother there also. He has special needs. But just even what had you all ever talked about this, like dating? Did you think when you were dating you would even have a family of 6 people, literally from all different ethnicities and walks of life?
So I think things probably didn't go exactly to plan, but they went better than what the plan was going to be. We talked about having 5 children when we were kind of dating and engaged, and yeah, that was kind of a number we kicked back and forth if that was going to happen. But sort of where we ended up at is, I think, nowhere
We expected.
expected starting off.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I look back on like memories and like that same conference we were at. I think years ago we were there, and your dad might even have been the keynote speaker. And we were young. We were newly married, maybe like year or 2 married. And this family was walking up from the lake back up to the condos, and they had a little girl that was from China, like they had a Chinese daughter. And in the back of our minds, we're like, ooh, I wonder if we could do that. But we never really like fathomed like actually doing it. It was just like this tiny little seed that was planted.
God brought you guys together as a couple and everything. Plan. I love Robert. Sometimes we like to plan, but God has some other things that He puts on our heart, like that. And so, but sometimes even when we plan it, or even when it's a great thing that God brings into our life, it can be messy. So you guys had 2 daughters, and then what got your heart thinking for, okay, not just adopting internationally, but special needs? That is a whole nother ball game, because there's, different threads to every story. It's not just, going overseas, but it's also medical stuff. Like that's, both of your children, your youngest, a daughter and son, have medical issues. So how do you even step into that? That's a big commitment.
Yeah, I think that we stepped into that after God had like refined our hearts. So we had, like Rob said, wanted 5 children, and we had our 2 oldest, and then after that we experienced loss as we started to have our
Wow.
3rd and our 4th, and so
Wow.
there was loss in that, and then after that, there was some infertility in that. And so we kind of began to realize like that door to how we were going to grow our family had closed,
I
or not
I'm
closed, but paused.
I want to jump in there. How do you deal with that mess? You have two children, and then you've lost a
Yeah.
couple, and then you can't. Do you mind talking a little
Um,
bit about that mess,
how
even?
do you deal with that mess?
Right.
I think we joked when we were planning this podcast. Do you want the therapist couch version or the park bench version? Um, the
The version you
the
give to someone at the park.
yeah, the
You
version
can
I
give
give to
whatever
someone at the
version.
park, or do you want do you want the therapist couch version? Um, how do you deal with it? Like, honestly, I think we just kind of like shoved it down into in a
Mm,
drawer, closed the drawer, and said, "Let's move on." I don't think
mm,
that that was the healthiest way to deal with it.
mm,
And I think dealing with it that way probably is what led to our God refining our hearts and led to this. I think there was sadness, but also I think like you and I, you may agree, like our personalities are just, kind of like, okay, this happened. How do we move forward from it?
wow.
We're not real. You can, do you want to expound on that, or do you agree?
Yeah, I think we sort of take things as they come and try
Mm,
to make the best of them.
Yeah. I think so in that, like I think we just kind of were like, oh, this is sad, cried a little bit, and then just kind of like we still have these other girls that we have to take care of, and we'll just see what happens. And so in that seeing what happens, we kind of thought about adoption. I had done a ladies' Bible study, and it was on the book of James. And in it, a lot of James talks about kind of like not our salvation is through works, but that like when we are believers, like we are called to do some work. And
mm,
so James 1 was true Christianity is helping widows and orphans in their need, and that really like tugged at my heart because I had always had this like feeling like I had lost these children, and I, truly believe in the sanctity of life, and I think life is precious and valuable. Um, but what are we doing to help people after
mm,
that? And so we were like, okay, what about this thing called foster care? And we kind of did some research on it, and we joke that we think we have ADHD because we're very much like very impulsive. We're like, oh, this sounds great. Let's do it. So we just were like, one day we're like, oh, let's foster. And so we did. And so we did all the work towards it. If you asked me then, 12 years ago, if you asked both of us, we would say, oh, we want to do it to help other people. But I think if
mm,
you really examined my heart, I wanted to do it to grow my family. And that is the
mm.
wrong reason to do foster care.
Wow.
Foster care is the goal of it is to get these kids healthy and to get their families healthy and
Mm,
reunify them. And so I think God knew that my heart wasn't ready for the true,
mm,
the true need in foster care. And so we had maybe 3 placements that were very short, like a week. Like we get a baby and they'd be like, the state would be like, oh no, this isn't, you have no control in foster care, none
mm.
as a foster family. You just do what they say. And then we received a placement that was more long term, and it was messy and hard and really opened our eyes, I think, a little bit to the brokenness in the world
Mm.
that we might not have seen before, and refined our heart a little bit on why you should do foster care. The goal is
Wow.
not adoption in foster care. The goal is reunification.
Did
And
you regroup at some point thinking, okay, this is messier than we thought it would be,
yes,
Well,
and this is not growing our family, did you all kind of say, okay, we need to step away from this, or?
Well, one thing that really helped us, and I'm not sure if your listeners, maybe they know people who are fostering or have going through some similar experiences, but and after the longer placement ended, we had some friends who just invited us over, said, "Hey, come be with us, have lunch, and spend the afternoon here." And I remember just feeling a great deal of comfort and love from them. They didn't ask a lot of questions or
Mm,
pry a whole lot. We were just kind of together and able to sort of step out of kind of our house and into their family and just be really embraced by them. And that meant a lot to myself to just sort of um, help us transition from that experience.
mm,
And your
wow.
question, that was kind of in the the healing process, because they're like
Right.
when children are reunified, you grieve it, because if you're doing this right, you're gonna love them as your own, knowing that they probably won't stay forever.
Mm,
And so you grieve their loss, you grieve your loss, but truly going back to your family is a gain. So you rejoice in that gain that they got, that they were able to return. And I think at the end of that, we taught, like, you can do something called put a hold. So we put a hold on our home and said, let's take a step back and see if this is really, really for us.
mm,
And so when you asked, did we have that conversation? We did, after that placement went back,
mm,
when we're reunified. And
So we were kind of starting to plan for kind of where our family was going to go after that. We had looked at moving kind of downtown in our city, and
kind of seeking a life of comfort. I think we were just like, you know what?
have a house with like fewer bedrooms and be like enough for us and maybe the older girls too, and
Mhm.
kind of looking for sort of orienting our life towards, yeah, like you said, more like our own comfort.
Our own comfort
mm,
and desires, and like, we were just, I think we both, like, at first were like, all right, well, this isn't for us. I guess we're just doing these two kids. So let's move to
right.
someplace fun. Let's just give our kids these experiences. And you call this our running to Tarshish moment. I don't know if you're
Oh, I think of it
so
just for anyone who's not familiar with the
yes.
story. I, in the Bible, Jonah is trying to run away from what God's putting on his heart
Mhm.
and saying, "Okay, God wants me to go that way. I'm going to go that way." So,
Yes. Yes.
that's really a great analogy of you guys were like, "Okay, well, God's kind of
You
put
want us
some of this on our heart, but we're going to go that way."
Yeah, you want us to do something hard and uncomfortable, and that was too
Right.
much. So see you later.
So that God sent a will.
He literally said a will. Like, no, we're not kidding. Like, he sent a event that really just was like eye opening. It was like being in the belly of the whale
Wow.
that he brought us out of, to the point where, like, I mean, we were as a family kneeling in our driveway praying, thanking God
Wow.
for his protection in the event.
Wow.
And
There'd been a pretty significant hailstorm that went through and interfered with a lot of the real estate transaction that we were trying to do, selling our house.
buying the
Mm,
house, and left
wow.
us liable for, like, our entire house we were selling was like literally destroyed.
Oh my goodness.
And this storm happened the night before we closed on it. And so, like, hours before we
Wow.
closed on it. So we were liable for our home we owned, and we
Oh,
still had to fulfill our contract, which was a large financial burden on us. And it was
wow.
just a very stressful, literally 3 days in the belly of the whale, just
Wow.
to and it God resolved it, and
Mm,
it was great. But in that moment, I think you, as as our leader of the family, were like, nope, we're not
yeah.
doing this.
Mm,
This is not us. were not called for comfort. And we just kind of took a pause. We settled and we were like, okay, let's just pause. Let's regroup. Let's figure out what God has for us, how we can serve him. And so we did. We paused for about a year. And then I met this sweet woman. I room mommed with her at my kids' school. And she had some children adopted from China internationally. And I was like, can you do that? How do you do that? Tell me more. And she was just so great about saying, call these people, do this, do that, like holding my hand. And at that time, you had been sent to California for work and you were gone on like a 6-month sort of thing. So I was alone at home stewing and thinking, and I sent you this.
Stewing.
It's like, I'm plotting. What can we do? What can we do? And
Robert learned to not go away after that.
I sent you a picture of this baby in this like pink outfit, and it was like the Michelin Man. I think in the orphanages they layered them with clothes, and so big puppy, cute little kid in pink. And you said, "No." I was like, "No, what are you doing?" No. And I was like, "Yes, let's do this." And you were like, "No, let's not do this." And I was like, "Yes."
So as we were like trying to like go away from what could be the path that I think that God wanted to take us on, moving away, he put obstacles there to sort of redirect us back to what I believe he wanted for our family. But then, like Jess mentioned, as we started to sort of follow what God's will was, he like provided the finances and time and the resources. You mentioned I was out in California, so there were like additional financial incentives from work, which were able to
cover the entire cost of the adoption. Yeah,
exactly what the cost was.
And just like I think I was joking. You said yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. In the end, like Rob's very logical. I think you literally cast lots. You're like, okay, because I was very much like, no, this is our child. We need to do this. You're like, okay, let's cast lots, and he did. And obviously Hudson's here, so that's the way the die rolled. And but I mean, talk about like God providing. We have just like this miraculous story about our son. Like China used to have a policy when you did international adoption that you could have multiple children. And the day I saw his picture, China had changed the policy that you could not have more than five children in your home. And without me knowing, our son had been committed to another family. And that family had more than 5 children. So they no longer could adopt our son.
Wow,
and
right.
I didn't know this. And so I just that day sent in an email saying, hey, we're really interested in this file. Can we see it? I did not realize that I was the first one to send an email out of like 50 different families that had come in to say this particular family, they were very grieved by the loss.
I bet.
And they created like this social media sort of call for someone to come in, and because they didn't want him to stay in the orphanage.
Right.
I hadn't seen that. I had no idea that this was even happening. And
so
then,
basically, they were hoping to find a family and put something out there that you were
yes.
unaware of. And okay, since they could not, wow.
Yes. And we were the first ones to send an email, but we had no idea that this was happening. And the adoption agency was like, oh, you're the first one. And we're like, the first one? What do you mean? So then they brought to light what happened. And we were like, oh my goodness, like God literally moved mountains and changed international policy for
Wow.
this boy to be in our family. And just in God's
Wow.
providence and amazement, a girl I went to high school with was the speech therapist for the family that was going to adopt this family and connected us because she knew their story. She
Wow.
knew my story. And she was like,
Oh,
Jessica, I know these people. And so now that family gets to see our son grow up. And we
wow.
have this beautiful connection where she's always so encouraging and like it's just amazing how like little things like that
You know, we
work.
talk about in my family, growing up and with our children too, of God sightings, just seeing the hand of God in things. And
Yeah.
wow, that's a bunch. You know, so
And it's also part of the process is that the regulations and the procedures they can change frequently and in the middle of these long processes, and that's just kind of part of the experience.
Yes, you have to be like talk about messes, like you've done it, like the paperwork,
right.
the unknown, you're at the mercy of so many factors. You fall in love with this picture and this person that you think you know, and there's just so much that goes into it.
As I hear the two of you talk, I cannot help but jump back to what you talked about because the Bible talks about orphans and widows, and you talked about that the book of James, and that word in there also in some other versions of the Bible, it talks about the widows and orphans in their distress. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and you had read the version need instead of distress. And I actually looked up distress. Like we know what distress is, but I looked it up and it literally is extreme anxiety, sorrow, or pain. So
Mm-hmm.
literally, I think of whether it is now foster care, still they're having turmoil and roller coaster things at
Oh,
home, but they're going through extreme anxiety,
yes.
sorrow, pain, uncertainty, the
Yes.
unknown. Where am I going to go next? And you think of even in an orphanage on the other side of the world, whether our daughter, your two of your children, they're distressed and they might not know they're going through distress, but our body
Mm-hmm.
and our minds and our spirits know that distress. We
Mm-hmm.
might not be able to call it that. So I love that you all have chosen to open your lives and home with that. But you don't just have your son from China, you also have your
No,
daughter. So,
we do.
and I'm trying to
Uh,
remember, are they related or no? Like biologically? They're not.
no,
Okay.
no. They
So how
were,
did that come around for her?
yeah. So,
While we were adopting our son from China, we met some other families who were also going through a similar process. And when Jess was kind of reviewing the medical needs for our son, one thing I said, well, how is his kind of mental abilities? I was real concerned about having a child that I could communicate with him, and we were able to take care of his medical needs. And so I was at that time not sure I was ready to adopt a child with like significant cognitive impairment.
Mhm.
Um,
I think even like I'm gonna kind of throw you under the bus a little bit, but even like in China, at the first day we had him, you literally looked at me and you were like, "How is he mentally? What do you think?"
Mm.
And I was like, I don't know. We got him a day. He's two. He's great. He's perfect. But you were very, very concerned and nervous about that. And God again in his like just his what did your grandma say? Like he was
Out of slide.
got a sly. So like in his slyness, he paired us with a family who had adopted a child with Down syndrome. And that little boy just melted Robert's heart. For 2 weeks, we spent time with him, and
Wow.
he was this just precious, perfect little boy. And I think we were on the plane to come home to America, and you looked at me and you said, in 1 year, we're going back and we're going to adopt a child with Down syndrome. And I was the one that was like, excuse me?
You guys are awesome. Like, you text him a picture of, and then he's just telling you, hey, we're coming back and adopting a child with Down syndrome. I love it that you guys, but here's the other thing. The two of you earlier said you just have I don't know what to call it. I'm going to call it maybe Tigger in a way, that just some bounceability of going through
Flexible. We're
life
very
and
flexible.
kind of rolling with things. And I feel like that's a practical takeaway, that flexible for when you're in the mess. Because you all have a lot of mess. You're juggling schedules and activities for 6 individuals, medical issues, things like that, and that flexibility. But also there's that openness of being willing to, okay, God's pointing us this way, kind of pushing my heart this way or this way. And I love that also as a couple, you're open to what the other person says. Now, yes, Rob said no, but at that one point, but I love that you are able to still hear the other person and adapt to that. So I love that flexibility you all have and the willingness to hear from each other about, okay, maybe go this route. So Robert, did you go back in a year, and were you adopting a girl with Down syndrome?
I think it was even faster than a year.
Yeah. Again, just those I get goosebumps all the time just thinking about how I think we did it in 6 months. Like, it was crazy. But you can go ahead.
Yeah, so having gone through the process once, we were a little bit more familiar with all the paperwork steps that we needed to go through. So that helped, but also I think God's hand was in the process to expedite a lot of the reviews and the paperwork, and took several trips to the consulate in the Chinese consulate in the state to help move things along. And it was right before COVID happened.
I think our daughter is probably the last 25 to 50 children to ever be adopted in China. We were there Thanksgiving 2019, and January 2020 travel to China closed, and there hasn't been an adoption since then. And so again, we had the process took 6 months, which normally takes 18.
Wow,
So
God's timing.
God's timing. Yeah. I think I was a little bit more reluctant to adopt our daughter with Down syndrome than this time, just because our son was still new to the family, and he had our son is hearing impaired, and so intelligent, but hearing impaired and a little bit of boy, and he was just really hard, and it was really messy. And I was like, ooh, do we want to, add more to that? And then in adopting a child with Down syndrome, you really have to think about the future. Like, cognitively, I don't think she'll ever be able to live alone. So that means that I'm going to be mothering her forever till I no longer can. And I was a little selfish and reluctant on that. I was like, well, wait a second. Like, we've always talked about, like, the job of a parent is to, how do you put it?
Work ourselves out of a job.
Work ourselves out of a job.
Right.
Like, we've always gone into parenting as like, I'm teaching you to be an independent adult.
Right.
And so now I'm having to change that kind of perspective in my parenting, because what did you say? You said something. You're like, are you kidding? You love being the mom. How would you want to do this forever?
Well, but then on our daughter's situation was a little different. Instead of being in a group foster care setting in China, she was with a foster family. So it was a little bit different experience for her than our son. Um, I assume that she had made an attachment with that family. So then when she came and was placed with us, it was completely different, and
Yeah.
she almost didn't move for the first kind of day or two just from the shock and everything.
Yeah.
But then
Right.
even after that, I think you experienced some rejection from her.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
Oh, awful.
Uh,
You're
that
like, I didn't want to do this to begin with, in a way, because you're
Well,
kind of instead.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Like I was reluctant, not that I didn't want to. I mean,
Right. Right.
once I said yes, like I'm all in, but
Right.
experienced definitely a lot of rejection from her, which
Right.
I didn't really want much to do with me for like 2 years. And it was a long time. It was
Talk about messy. Oh,
Yes. And so
right. That's
like
hard.
that really makes you think like how do you love someone that rejects you? Like
Right.
that was definitely
How did you do that?
I
We didn't really have the way to express it at the time, but where we've gotten to now is what our definition of love is.
yes.
They say love is self-sacrifice so that someone else can experience God's best. And
Oh,
that's
wow. That's powerful.
that's kind of the point we've gotten to now.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, because our family is a little messy. Like it's different. We have multiple children with multiple different backgrounds and experiences um and so you have to I think you were very wise to kind of we were talking through things and he's like, "No, love is this." And so once we got to that where I was like, "Okay, love is, self-sacrificing because I want God's best for these children, no matter their response to me." Um um that was and it also worked through my pride because with my older children, I kind of wanted those cookie cutter kids who like excelled in school, had great manners. You should see if you look back at pictures of our daughters, their hair going to school was perfect every day because I wanted to like represent this image of, perfection that doesn't exist and that was just so people could say, "Oh, wow, you're such a great mom. Oh, wow." And so like through all that mess, God really like refined our hearts, or mine especially, to like, oh, this is what love is. And this is what service looks like. And so
And
yeah.
perfection is not, kudos to you for your daughters having great looking hair. I cannot say the same for like my daughter. I literally remember someone saying to me one time, it's St. Patrick's Day and your child does not have a green shirt on. Like, I'm shocked. Like, but I didn't even
Lisa, the
think about it.
horror.
I know.
How dare you?
But I was kind of surprised. But sometimes people think whoever has it all together, and it's not possible. Everyone has mess somehow, and the perfection isn't real, and therefore that's why I love having these conversations that walk into the mess, because people feel like we're so alone. Like, I'm sure there are other families where biological, adopted, foster care, whatever, where they're not feeling that love back from their child, whether
Yes.
they are little, teenager. I think a lot of parents feel like, okay, I'm not feeling much of anything from my child. Even
Even our
adults.
second daughter, for Christmas I bought her a locket because she's very I don't want to say cold, but like very stoic. And I'll say, "Oh, I love you." And she'll go, "I know." And so for Christmas we bought her a locket, and on the inside, one side says "I love you," and the other side it says "I know." And
Oh, I love that.
You
We
have
meet our people where they're at. I feel
yes,
like, and
yes. You just have to
everyone
be
is
okay with
different.
that. Yes.
Yeah, and even you have twice as many children as we do. We have three, so but you meet. I think one thing I learned as a parent is every child is unique and different,
Yes.
and then you also have other things. So I just want to focus in a little bit on your youngest daughter who's from China, who we're referring to. Am I remembering correctly? Is she verbal? Is that an
Ah,
ongoing thing?
yeah.
And then, and did she, I also want to jump back to, did she ever warm up and feel like,
Yeah.
okay, you
Yeah.
know,
So, our youngest daughter with Down syndrome, we adopted her when she was 2. She was nonverbal, at the time, and, she turns 8 on Saturday.
oh
So
my goodness.
it's been 6 years that she's been part of our family.
Wow.
Did she warm up to me? Probably last year.
Wow.
To be honest, it took a good 5 years. And
Wow.
is she verbal? Not really.
Right.
Her favorite thing to say is, "Nah." That's what she would do to me. She would go, like, "Hi, do you want can I have a hug?" Nah. And she, does know have some words. So ice cream, we know that one. Popcorn, we know that one.
Wait, what was that one?
Popcorn.
Popcorn. Okay.
Chips. She knows her brother's name.
Oh.
She knows my name, not mom, dad. But being nonverbal does not mean she is not non-communicative. We joke, we have a Labradoodle that we've had for about 6 months now, and she is the only one who has dominance over that dog. So
That's hilarious.
she's okay. But I think it goes to kind of a conversation of value. Where does one get their value? Is your value based on your capabilities, or is your value based on something else? And we have
And you're talking about her value or your value? Because at
everyone's
the same
value.
time, you're being told,
Yeah,
nah,
exactly.
that's a lot mentally. That can do a number
Yeah.
on anybody. Even if
Yes.
you're like, I'm loving, self-sacrifice, your guys'
Yes.
beautiful definition Robert shared. But like to be told now all the time, that's
Yeah,
hard
as a
to know.
mother,
Yeah.
yeah. You would think like, oh, we had always told our older children and all of our children that your value comes from the fact that you were created in the image of God and He loved you. And that's it. It's not something you do. It's not something you don't do. It's just is. And so having our daughter reject me made me have to say, oh, is my value in being a mother? Is my value being in a good mom and my kids loving me and wanting to spend time with me? Or do I truly believe what I've been teaching my kids, that my value is in that I've been created in the image of God and He loves me. And so I love how like in the
Yeah, you don't want to put your value in your children's performance or their decisions and kind of what their achievements, because like ultimately they're going to be responsible for those. Whereas our responsibility as parents, we felt, is to really show Christ to them and train them and teach them. But what they take from that and in the choices that they make, like those are them their choices. And if they're good choices, that doesn't mean we're better parents or better people. If they make the wrong choices, the same thing, it doesn't detract from the fact that we were faithful to do what we were supposed to do, even though it really hurts sometimes.
yeah.
Right. That's so good. And I can't help but think in the middle of all this. And Robert, you're the dad of this family. And a lot of times, a dad, however they treat their child, is how their child views God. Because the Bible talks about him as our, when we choose to have a relationship with God, he can be our heavenly Father. And I think of how many times do we go, nah, to God, like, I don't want you as a part of my life. And he still loves us. He still has that, the only one who has unconditional love. But I also want to touch on with that role, even the just being involved and having that involved father, the loving father that I just so appreciate hearing your heart with that, because that's just so powerful of an example of who God is to us. And as humans, we are not perfect and we make mistakes, but still, you are showing them that love and care. But also talking about just being hands-on in the lives of our children. I know I was texting Jessica recently, and you were out for a study trip with your two oldest daughters, and I'm like, wow. It's intentional choices. That's kind of I want to hear a little more from you all about that individual time, because 6 children, it's like you almost think of the Brady Bunch, but you don't know, did they ever really get individual time with like Mike and Carol Brady? I don't know, but it's kind of a bunch. But you took time. You're taking time, like as a study treat. Okay, the dad to go off, and if it was ice cream, I'm sure you didn't tell your youngest, because she would want to go along because she knows how to say ice cream.
They literally sat and ate it in the van. So
to hide it from the other. Well, but that's a powerful thing. So, Robert, are there other ways you all do those, those hands-on moments where it's that individual attention? Okay, we're going to take the oldest girls they're in the middle of finals, and at that moment, and taking them out for that, or taking the younger ones. I know you go camping, and with like your younger children or the whole family. But are there other examples of just that intentional hands-on parenting, of giving that individual attention?
Yeah, relationships take a lot of energy and effort, but also just a lot of time and in being present. Um, I think we're probably still adjusting to 6 children in the household and figuring out exactly kind of how to best allocate our time and energy across the children. And often the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So we want to be cognizant that we're taking care of those immediate needs, but also not sort of leaving behind the children who seem to be doing quote unquote okay. They still need to have that presence. I just typical things like story time before bed. For older ones, if there's driver's training, like they can always use more time with the parent next to him at the wheel, and those present a lot of good opportunities for those conversations to occur in kind of a natural, relaxed way. And kids, no matter what their age, always like ice cream too. So
Yeah.
that's an easy one.
I can't help but think of, in the Bible, it says in these verses in Deuteronomy, I know you have heard them about talking with our children, and in that case, talking about our who God is, even, and just life issues and things, of when we walk along, when we sit down, when we lay down. And that's in the Bible, but nowadays we can add in things when we're in the car, having those
Yes.
conversations, when we go for ice cream,
Yes.
doing those kinds of things. So I love that natural connection with all
Yeah,
that. And
one of our daughters had an art class that she took for a year when she was a sophomore, and it's kind of annoying because it was about 45 minutes or an hour drive away, but it was just a lot of time to be in the car together and really just talk about how her day was, how is she
Wow.
doing, share stories about what I've been doing and how things were at work, and really help grow that relationship because we were like forced to be together during that time.
I think it takes also,
Wow.
I think parenting takes bravery 'cause and it takes self-sacrifice. And I think someone asked me the other day, like, "Oh, what show are you watching?" And I'm like, "I don't think I've watched television in 10 years." Like, it's it's being willing to sacrifice, like, my desires to ensure that I'm spending time with them. And it doesn't you've reminded me, like, I have always wanted it to be this, like, what I think I took a personality test once, and it said that I was, like, the defender of holidays and special occasions, and so I want everything to be a party and a celebration, and you've just really said kind of reminded me that it doesn't have to be a big thing spending time with your kids. It just needs like I've watched you just yesterday. One of our kids likes to play video games, and you literally just sat down next to them for 20 minutes and watched them play video games. And that like signaled to them, "Oh, you're valuable. You're important and the things you like are important to me." And it wasn't I didn't have to buy anything, didn't have to go anywhere. It was just
Presence.
talking and presence.
Right. I've learned that even as an adult, I just like presence, just being near my people, because those
Yeah.
moments are rarer when they all go off and start doing their own things
Yes.
and all.
Yes.
So I love that, just entering in where they are, and just another practical thing because you have so many different backgrounds going on, different needs, and we don't
Yes.
always know even. So I do want to step into how, and I cannot help but think of foster care, which you did, and then you recently were asked to adopt two
Yes.
who you did foster
Yeah.
years ago. And I think of the words in, I think it's in Psalms. I always have to write this down, of how God is a father to the fatherless, and he sets the lonely in families. I'm
Mhm.
just like, wow, no matter what age, that can be,
Yeah.
a child, it could be a senior citizen who doesn't
Yeah.
have he can put the lonely with community
Yeah.
and, connection. But that has increased your family to 6
Yes.
children, so 8 of you now. That affects maybe a car size, or do you just
Yeah, we
take
take
2
2 cars
vehicles
everywhere
every
now. We don't have a vehicle big enough for all of us. We haven't
and
quite
then,
worked
like,
that out.
who gets shotgun in the car?
Oh, that's also a thing. That's definitely a thing.
But
Um,
how have you that's a lot of extra bandwidth and energy.
yes.
Robert talked about the energy and relationships. You're still sorting some of that out, but can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So, we mentioned earlier in our conversation that we had spent some time fostering, and all of those resulted in none of the children staying with us permanently.
So when these two girls left our care when they were younger, I still remember like standing there in front of the house and waving goodbye to them, feeling sad, and then Jesse tripped over the curb and fell down
You know
to
how
the ground.
Oh,
like that fight or flight sort of like when things are very, very stressful. So I was trying to keep it together, buckled them in the car, they're driving off. I turned around. I was
oh.
just so overwhelmed that I didn't step up the curb and I fell flat on my face in our driveway.
Talk
Like,
about adding insult. What is it? Insult to
yes,
injury at
yes.
that
So I
moment?
mean, that's our memory of saying goodbye.
And then when
Wow.
they came and joined our house,
Did you
we
trip over the curb then too?
Serious. I slipped on a dog bone in the kitchen on the first day.
Oh, golly.
I was just like, it's just like that
Wow.
that stress and that newness like can really just make things. Happily nothing was broken, but they just
Right.
everyone looked at me like,
why is mom on the floor?
why is mom on the floor?
Mom's the one who tries to keep us together. But you know what? It adds some humor in the moment too,
Oh,
because
yes,
I'm
we're
sure.
pretty fun. I think that added some relief to the transition.
Right.
We're a loud, silly, fun family, and so it was just like I laughed it off, and we got up and we ate our tacos. Um,
We ate our tacos.
so no, so one of the placements that we had did not, we said goodbye. And then this year on New Year's Day, get a phone call from the state we live in saying we have two girls who you know and who need a permanent adoptive family. And talk about curveball.
And on New Year's Day, like
Yeah.
there are resolutions, but that's
Yes.
like, whoa, we're taking
And
in
we-
two more children.
And
It's-
we're like preparing to like graduate a child, send one
Right.
off. Wheels are starting to turn about how we're in this groove. And so we told the state that we needed to, think about it, pray about it, talk to the
Right.
family. I think our children were instantly like, our oldest was like, how do you say no to that? And
Wow.
our second was like, I don't believe in coincidences. And I just was thinking about them the other day and praying for them. And we were like, okay. And then when we told our son, who's 9, and explained, he's like, well, yeah, I'll bring him in. So,
Okay, I just have to say with that right there, just to jump in, how did you, it's your fault for bringing up children who are saying
so flexible. And
how amazing that you have created that kind of thinking and space and heart in your family. And because there could also be bitterness, like, there's so much going on.
That
I
was
can't do
definitely
that.
a genuine fear, because if I was a 16-year-old and you wanted to bring in
Right.
2 preteens into my family, I would
Right.
have had bitterness, like if I was really looking at my heart.
Our son did say he was going to go into school and tell his friends he had
Oh,
5 sisters, and these guys are never going to believe it.
yeah.
How amazing, though, that God had begun like preparing each of their hearts before that call ever came. So in the case of foster care, no child has made any decision that has created their own mess. It's been the choices of others that have created mess for them. So that, that is something that I wouldn't have thought of, just even that birth order part of things and the mess that is from their perspective. So.
Yeah.
And so you all are kind of still in that journey, but I want to hear a little more about just humor in your life. Are you just like,
You want
okay,
yeah.
just,
You want to know all the stories, all the tea, all the.
That's probably going to need to be another.
I will tell you that our teenagers tell us the word mess is the word for like in like a Gen Alpha slang is like gossip and tea, and like if someone's messy. And so I got lots of mess for you. Our daughter with Down syndrome. You will not believe the antics, the phone calls I get from the school.
I'm just surprised she's not kicked out yet.
I know, seriously.
Around Thanksgiving time, a project to write down 1,000 things that they're thankful for.
And if you turn it in, you get to have lunch with the headmaster.
Oh.
Now, it's an optional assignment, so he brings home his large pad of paper to write down all 1,000 things. He writes, he's thankful for mom and dad and family. And
I think number 4 or 5.
5 was, I'm thankful this assignment is optional. And it stopped.
If he keeps going, he has 2 more things he can put on there this year with 2 more sisters. He could just include, that's like half the assignment right there.
Oh, but like we just honor our daughter is a hoot. She loves to lock us out of the house. So is a constant mess that we go through where she just locks the door and, waits.
And then she's alone inside then?
Yeah, well,
With
is
the
anyone ever
Labradoodle.
alone in this house? There's 8 of us.
She just wants to be in charge. She's like, everyone leave. She's like, this
Yeah.
is
But she
my
started to
empty
laugh
nest.
at us too while we're out there.
Yes. I think you said the other day, like, I never believed Home Alone. I didn't think that movie was plausible. But now I'm starting to think that
That's going to happen soon. It hasn't happened yet.
we haven't left anyone anywhere, but we might. We might
I
just leave
love
someone.
just hearing you chat just like this and the humor. And, we could talk for ages on all this, but I do want to touch on, you've talked about, there's a recurring thread of just your relationship with God, faith, trusting God in this process, running away from God when you're like, no, I don't want to do what you
Yeah.
put on our heart. But can you just talk a little bit about that, just why that has been an anchor for you or
Yeah.
why it hasn't been? Just can you touch on some of that?
Sure.
Yeah, even though we've been inconsistent, God has been consistent. And at every point along the journey where there's been needs, whether it's like financial or material or spiritual or whatever, God has always shown up and provided what we needed. Not always what we wanted, but everything that we needed along the way.
Mhm.
And we're just very thankful for that. And just as our family starts to transition with children finally leaving and starting the beginning to start their own lives, our role as parents is going to change along with that. But we look forward to just continuing to trust that God's got it,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
look to where He wants us to plug in and be in that role that He wants for us. I'm sure we'll continue to miss things
Mhm.
and make mistakes and get distracted along the way, but God has been consistent.
Yeah. And like for me, like I grew up in this kind of uh theology that's like Jesus is just like salvation and Jesus is your ticket to heaven. Like there was not a lot of conversation about like sanctification and growing and what life looks like here now. It was more just like, oh, that's for heaven. And so as I've grown in my love for Jesus and my love for the word and maturity, I've learned that like life is to like live now for Christ and to die to ourselves and like give our life in service to other people. And so all of these like messy things that have happened in my life have really just been used to refine me. I think again in James it says like consider it joy when you face trials of many kind because it's there to perfect your faith and to give you perseverance and to grow you. And so that's kind of been a verse that I've just like really leaned into because I've had a lot of trial and trauma and grief in my life. And so it's just been, I mean, like Robert said, like we have not been perfect. We have not done things
Wisely.
wisely. We've made a lot. Like you just said, like some messes we've created for ourselves. And so it's just really been about being able to just kind of lean into Christ and
one thing and the pastor's sermon this past Sunday really
oh yeah.
meant a lot to me is a lot of times there's a temptation to try to get other people to be more like you, and we should really be pointing people to Jesus so that we become more like Him, and the people around us, we
Yeah.
encourage them to be more like Jesus, and not set ourselves as this standard or try try to convince people to live like we do.
And I think like at the beginning of like my parenting, I wanted to make my children like me and what I preferred. Like I turned my preferences into a moral issue and like wanted them to do that. And it's like, no, I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be like Christ. And so again, just kind of refining those
They're
things.
really clarifying like what is a clear biblical command versus what are just our preferences.
I
Like-
really like that.
Yeah, we have a
because
Oh, go ahead,
yeah.
sorry.
No, you go ahead.
We have a saying like at the dinner table, like it's like these are true truths. And then these are our family preferences. And we really try to distinguish between the two so that our because someday our children may go out and those might not be their preferences. And so they don't have to feel guilty in changing those preferences.
I feel like that's huge because that's a very intentional pouring into their life of what is God's truth and what are what our family, what you've chosen, how as parents and all, and that gives them freedom to know, okay, well, this is, and to, that is so wise about the, distinguishing between that. I do have a question. Dates, it's kind of self-care people talk about.
Oh,
Do you ever get to pull out? Your expression was awesome. You're just like self-care. Like, whoa, you may not have time for that.
We have a standing date during the school year. Robert and I have lunch every Friday. We go and we eat at places our children refuse to eat at. So I will catch him in the garage, in the car, just sitting there.
I love that. That's awesome.
We'll go and look in the bedroom, knock on the bathroom. He's just sitting in the car. And I just open the door. I'm like, what are you doing out there?
That's self-care. I feel like
just
that's
needed
awesome.
a moment to regroup.
Right.
And I would love to say that I'm great at self-care, and I'm not. This is our family mascot. It's a smiling dumpster fire.
Didn't Robert find that?
He found this. And the irony of it, I wish I still had it. It was in a crumpled up box. And like we were just laughing hysterically because how ironic that the dumpster fire is in this like beat up box in the bottom of a clearance bed. And like Robert's not someone to buy tokens or anything. And he brought it home. And we're like, this is us. Like just finding joy in the dumpster fire of life and just being able to laugh about it and smile about it and just not dwell in the mess, but just find the joy in it and move on. I think that's kind of just been, I don't know if it's just our personalities though, being able to be flexible and easygoing.
But that's also a choice. I just think you are, and other people in life, that you are an extraordinary people. Just extraordinary because of some of your choices. The choices to be flexible, the choice to roll with it when whatever happens, whether it's someone coming into your life from trauma in their background, from overseas or special needs or fostering, and then just finding the humor in it. And I'm sure a lot of the laughter. And if your neighbors can hear the noise, I'm sure they love the laughter because only God can bring all these threads of all the different backgrounds among your children and guys into a place where there can be some joy. And I couldn't help but think when you were talking, Robert, at one point about missing things. We'll miss things, and we have missed things. And I know with Rick and I, we got to a point we would pray for God to fill in the gaps because we do miss things as
Mhm.
parents. Even the best intentions and the most intentional choices were not always going to show up intentionally, or
Mhm.
uh, whatever the case may be. So I'm thankful that we can ask God to fill in those
Yeah.
gaps along the way. But
I had a friend recently, she was actually the maid of honor at my wedding. She texted me the other day and she said, "Your family is like a little piece of heaven on earth. Like it looks like heaven. We have 6 kids representing 4 different nationalities and multiple abilities and multiple backgrounds." And I thought that that was a really, really sweet way to put it. And just, I think that having more of our pastor likes to say a lot of times, like eyes up, not out, meaning like having more of your, if your focus is more on the eternal things versus like the worldly things, it makes it just a little easier to have a perspective that you can, get, like for me, like to deal with it, to deal with the mess. When I find that the t- the messes that happen in my life that I wallow in or don't respond correctly to is because my attitude is inward in those. Like, how is this ruining my life? How is this making me uncomfortable? How is this affecting me, instead of having, and then when I shift my perspective to say, to think of others focused and eternally focused, it's just easier for me to shift and to have that joy and to do the next right thing. Because sometimes when I
mm,
dwell in how this is affecting me, the choices I make are more about how is this going to affect my comfort. So, and I may choose to do the wrong thing because it's comfortable versus just doing the hard thing that's actually kind of what one should, that's the I don't want to, like the thing that would be better. I think we
right.
talk a lot about in our family, there are things that are, what are you do it better than me. This is your say, the good, better, but
Oh, well, uh, don't accept what is good in exchange for what is better. So don't let the good or the better even crowd up for like what is best in your life.
Wow. And you have opened up your hearts and lives and home and family for what we hope and pray will be the best for them. Definitely better. And giving them opportunities.
I really appreciate what Jesse's friend said about the family, like being a small glimpse of like what heaven's going to be like. And I remember like singing that song in Sunday school. Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world, red, yellow, brown, black, and white. And like, if Jesus loves those children, then so should we.
Wow. That is really powerful. I grew up hearing that song too, and you guys have a lot of those different ethnicities represented under your roof there. So I just so appreciate you joining us on some of this. And I know there are other things along the way. I know even we kind of touched earlier on when you adopted, your one daughter with special needs, that affects maybe that empty nest stage. But then, Jessica, what you're talking about, um, when we look at our needs, and that involves some sacrifice later, sometimes with special needs, but just your willingness to step into that just in your daily life. And thank you for just kind of talking about the mess and some of the crazy. I don't even know how you cook for all the people and all the people do all the
3 pounds
things.
of ground beef.
Oh, 3 bags. People talk about cost of groceries every now and then, but
Oh,
I can't even imagine.
I know.
So, but
When you said self-care, I was like, well, I no longer get my eyebrows done because I have to buy ground beef. So
I just appreciate you all for joining us. And friend, I really hope that you've been able to be encouraged today by just seeing people who have mess, but have opened up their lives and hearts and homes. And I hope you're leaving encouraged today. And I hope you join me next time on Thrive in the Mess.